What if you were a successful entrepreneur in the world of One Piece? Here's what'll happen. You've got a real business idea, genuine ambition, and enough berry to actually get it off the ground. On paper, this should work. In practice, you're about to discover that the One Piece world has the most hostile business environment ever put to paper. Pirates raid your shipping routes. Yonko collect tribute before you've made a single sale. The world government taxes everything it can reach and protects almost nothing. And somewhere at the very top of all of it, a group of people who were born into their position own the rules themselves. If you want to build something real in this world, you're going to have to understand exactly who you're actually building it for. And it's probably not yourself. Let's see how far you actually get. Before you sell a single thing, before you open a single shop or ship a single crate, you have to decide where you're operating. And in the One Piece world, that single decision determines everything else that follows. Every island sits under someone's protection. And protection here doesn't mean what you'd want it to mean. It means someone powerful has already claimed this territory as theirs. And operating here means acknowledging that, formally, with Barry. The four Yonko carve up most of the new world between them. Operate in their territory without paying tribute, and you're not getting a fine or a legal notice. You're getting your entire business destroyed, personally, by someone who can punch through a mountain. The world government controls a different set of islands, the ones connected by the Grand Line shipping lanes they actually care about. Operate there and your tribute is taxes, inspections, and a marine garrison that answers to Marijois first and your island's needs second. And then there's the middle, the islands nobody powerful enough has claimed yet. No tribute, technically, but also no protection at all, which means every pirate crew that passes through sees your shop and your inventory and your berry as freely available. And there's nobody coming to stop them. You haven't sold anything yet, and you've already made the most consequential business decision of your entire career. Say you've picked your island. Now you need to actually move goods. And this is where the One Piece world reveals the second layer of how difficult this all really is. The Grand Line doesn't behave like a normal ocean. Magnetic interference wrecks conventional navigation. You need a log pose just to travel between islands, and log poses take time to calibrate to the next destination, which means your shipping schedules are not actually under your control. Weather in the Grand Line is violent and random in a way that has nothing to do with the season. And the sea itself is full of sea kings, creatures large enough to swallow a merchant vessel whole with no warning and no pattern anyone's ever successfully mapped. Now add pirates on top of all of that. Your merchant ship is carrying inventory worth millions of berry, it has no weapons, and the open sea has no law enforcement that will ever arrive in time to matter. Marine patrols are focused on pirate crews with bounties large enough to be worth chasing. Your merchant vessel getting raided doesn't make anyone's priority list. So your options are, hire a pirate crew to protect your shipments, which means paying out a significant share of every voyage's berry to people who are, fundamentally, a different kind of pirate than the ones raiding you. Or arm your ships yourself, which requires berry you probably don't have yet, and a crew willing to fight on open water. Or accept that every shipment you send out has a real, non-trivial chance of never arriving, and price your goods accordingly. There is no fourth option. This is just the cost of doing business here, built into the math from day one. Here's where it gets genuinely interesting. In the One Piece world, there exists an asset class with no equivalent anywhere in the real world: devil fruits. A single fruit can give the person who eats it an ability that fundamentally changes what they're capable of, and the rarest of them, the Logia types, can make a person nearly untouchable in a physical confrontation. For a business operator, that has obvious value. A logistics head who can't be stopped by most threats. A security chief who can't be harmed by conventional weapons. From a pure business perspective, one well-placed devil fruit ability in your organization could be worth billions of berry in saved losses, avoided raids, and reduced security costs over a lifetime. The problem is the supply side. Nobody controls where devil fruits appear. Nobody can manufacture them or order a specific type. The market for them is real. Prices reportedly reach into the hundreds of millions of berry for powerful fruits, but it's entirely illicit, entirely underground, and entirely dependent on whether the right fruit happens to show up in someone's inventory at the right moment. And then there's the second problem. If you acquire a powerful devil fruit user, you've just made yourself a target for every other operator in the world who wants that ability for themselves. Doflamingo built his entire underworld empire partly around controlling rare goods, including devil fruits, and even he couldn't hold it forever. The asset is real, the returns are real, But there is no such thing as quietly holding a high-value devil fruit asset in the One Piece world. Everybody who matters will eventually find out, and some of them will try to take it. So let's talk about where the real berry actually moves in the One Piece world. Because it's not in legal goods, not in standard port-to-port shipping, and not in any business a marine inspector would ever stamp approved. The real berry moves in the underworld. Weapons, actual war-grade weapons, the kind that can level towns, are manufactured and brokered outside of any government oversight. A single arms deal at the scale the One Piece underworld operates at moves more berry in one transaction than most legitimate island economies see in a year. Then there's information. In a world where the world government actively suppresses and rewrites historical facts, literally, they hunted down anyone who could read the poneglyphs for centuries. Accurate intelligence about what's actually happening across the seas is itself a product, and it commands serious berry from the people who need it. And then there's protection itself. Not tribute paid to someone more powerful, but the actual business of being the someone more powerful. The Yonko model, essentially. You build enough strength that others pay you to exist peacefully nearby. At full scale, that's an operation generating hundreds of millions of berry in passive income across dozens of islands, none of which requires you to manufacture anything at all. The inconvenient truth of the One Piece world's economy is that its most efficient businesses are all built on things the world government would classify as criminal. Every above-board merchant is paying tribute to a system that funnels berry upward. The only people genuinely escaping that are the ones operating outside it entirely. And to operate outside it, you have to be more dangerous than the people trying to bring you in. And here's the part that makes everything else feel like it was the easy problem. Even if you manage to navigate all of it, even if you pick the right territory, survive the Grand Line, build a real organization, and start generating serious berry, there's a ceiling above all of it that almost no one ever actually breaks through. The Celestial Dragons. Officially called the World Nobles, they are the direct descendants of the people who created the world government itself, which means they're not just powerful within the rules, they wrote the rules. Literally, historically, in actual physical documents the rest of the world is required to abide by. They don't pay for goods. In One Piece, a celestial dragon walks into your shop and takes whatever they want, and the correct response, according to literally every law in the books, is to let them. If a celestial dragon decides your business is interesting, they can claim it. If they decide your location is useful, they can take it. If they decide you personally are useful, there is a legal framework for that too, and the Marines are obligated to enforce it. This is the actual ceiling. You can build something genuinely impressive in the One Piece world. You can carve out real berry, real territory, real influence. But legitimate wealth, the kind that doesn't require you to be more powerful than a Marine admiral personally, operates entirely within a system that was built by and for the people who were born at the very top of it. The only entrepreneurs who escape that ceiling are the ones who become powerful enough to make the celestial dragons leave them alone. And in the entire history of the One Piece world, almost nobody has ever actually pulled that off. Here's what the One Piece world actually teaches you about business, if you look at it straight. Every system of wealth operates within a larger system of power, and whoever controls the larger system of power gets to set the terms, collect their cut first, and rewrite the rules the moment the current rules stop working in their favor. That's not a fantasy world problem. That's just what power looks like when it's been around long enough to build institutions. In One Piece, it's the Celestial Dragons and the world government. Everywhere else in history, it's been a different name with the same structure. The One Piece world is just honest about it in a way most places aren't. The successful entrepreneurs in that world, the ones who actually kept their berry long enough for it to matter, weren't the ones who worked hardest inside the existing system. They were the ones who found the edges of it, operated in the spaces between the rules, and built enough real power of their own that the system started working around them instead of on top of them. 700 years of the same story, whether the map says East Blue or somewhere else entirely. This is Explore Finance. See you in the next one.